Hello, fellow audio nerds. I'm Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. So sadly, my time with the Final Audio B series is finally coming to an end. This week, I got a chance to spend some quality time with the Final Audio B3. So how does this one sound, and which one is right for you? Let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Oh, hey, Steph here. Before getting started into the review, I just want to say a quick thing. If you like this review and you find it really helpful, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel. We definitely want to try and grow a little bit, so definitely want to hear your feedback as well. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. Alright, thanks. I'll see you in the review. Hey there, welcome to my place. Today I have with me the Final Audio B3, so let's see what's inside the box here. Alright, so as you see here, we've got some accessories. So first things first, we've got this documentation / warranty card here. We've got some ear tips, the Final Audio E-type tips. These grips to actually remove the cable because it's a little bit slippery there. Some ear hooks to put on the cable so that they can sit easily behind the ear. Then this silicone carrying case for the IEMs, and then of course the IEMs themselves, which they also come with this detachable MMCX cable. So taking a closer look at the design of these IEMs, they're absolutely gorgeous, just like the others in the B series. They've got this geometrical kind of like shape. It's got the same kind of driver housing shape and size as the others in the line. The driver housings are made of aluminum, and so they just look absolutely just like so pretty, kind of this matte silver kind of color to them. They have a classy look that is, looks like jewelry and just is really pretty overall. But let's see how they fit. I think they're probably going to fit similarly as the others in the line here. And yeah, pretty much exactly the same. It's a really good fit for my ears. My ears are relatively small, and something I kind of like about it, it's not like a super tight fit. It's a little bit loose, and it still feels secure, but it just because it's not a super tight feeling, they're also comfortable. There's a little bit of weight to them, not too much, but it feels good in the hand. They feel really durable and strong. You'll see that the connector here on the cable, this looks like maybe it's made of steel or something like that. Same thing with the other end here with the 3.5mm connector, and this is a silver-plated copper cable. You'll see that each side looks like it has two conductors, but they actually are fit within the same jacket. They're sort of twisted together, but all live in the same jacket with each other. And then when they meet in the middle, those two separate jackets are then twisted together until they meet here. Now, one big difference between these and the others in the line is that the driver configuration. So the B3 has two balanced armature drivers. So very curious to see how it ends up sounding. Let's see. Alright, I was just listening to the song I'm Callin' by Tennis, and the kick drum in the song, the low end seems to be a little bit modest and level. There was definitely still low end, and the kick drum in the song sounded really good, very even, very natural sounding, had this kind of element of accuracy and realism to it that I thought was really nice. It definitely isn't overpowering at all, but has good separation, and is just overall really even. Yeah, I was just listening to the song Born of a Broken Man by Rage Against the Machine, and the mid-range is really great with these IEMs. It's very full sounding, harmonically complex. The guitars in the song just sound super nice and big and full, and just have a really good sense of detail at the same time. There's definitely this feeling with the guitars in this song and the bass guitar of evenness in the mid-range. Nothing is really sticking out too much. It has this very natural kind of even and realistic mid-range that I really, really like. There was a little bit of There was really good separation between the middle part of the mid-range and the high mids. Like when the voice comes in, it definitely can sit apart from those two things. So the separation is there, but overall it just felt really nice and full. Wow, the high frequencies are gorgeous on these IEMs. I was just listening to the song 1919 by Carrie Lynn Carrington, and the cymbals, the drum brushes on the snare drum just sound like they have so much detail, and yet there's kind of this aesthetic sense to them. They have a nice feeling of articulation and detail, but still kind of feel smooth and easy, and yet still have a nice sense of extension too. It's kind of this really cool signature where there's a feeling of kind of warmth or smoothness there, while also having a lot of detail. And it's a really nice quality in the high end with these IEMs. Yeah, I was just listening to the song Me and My Honey by The Emotions, and the feeling of width with the IEMs is really well done, actually. Definitely feels nice and balanced, and yet kind of reaches out far and wide so that there's good separation between each instrument that's happening. Like there's an organ kind of over here, and yet the drums are playing over here, and then that solid vocal in the middle just kind of brings it all together, but it doesn't feel like unbalanced or like it's too far apart. Like it still has this feeling of intimacy in the width that is nice, but also just has a lot of detail and separation between the different instruments in the song. And then as for the feeling of depth, it's sort of interesting because it definitely has this feeling of intimacy to it, and yet because of how the even mid-range is, like the drum room sound, for example, was really like came across in a really detailed way, so it sort of gave it that dimensionality, while still maintaining that kind of closeness and that intimacy. And then as for the sense of height, I thought that the cymbals in the song and the vocal kind of sat nicely and higher up in space. There's good differentiation, in other words, in the height here. The bass kind of sitting a little bit further down, and like the deeper parts of like the tom drums in the song. So it's kind of an interesting soundstage too that I'm very much looking forward to analyzing more as the week goes on. But that said, yeah, I'll meet you back at the Major Hi-Fi office with my overall thoughts on the B3. Alright, see you. Overall, the low frequencies of the B3 are a little bit modest in their overall level, but have a really smooth and even sound, one that comes through with a feeling of realism and accuracy down there. It's definitely not going to be for the bass heads out there, but it works really, really well for genres that need an even low end that also has a feeling of a little bit of spaciousness around it. So things like jazz, classical music, and more kind of like acoustic music that needs more kind of harmonic complexity and evenness down there sound great with this low end here. Overall, the mid-range of the B3 sounds nice and full. There's definitely like a feeling of weight and of energy in the middle part of the mid-range, and it's also really harmonically complex. There is a little bit of a boost in the high mids around what sounded to me like 4 to 5 kilohertz, but it's not overly boosted, and in fact is actually balanced in a really nice way with a small cut around what sounded like 3 kilohertz. So as a result, it sort of gives you a little bit of extra articulation for voices and for strums and attacks and that kind of thing, while maintaining really a feeling of harmonic complexity and realism in the middle part of the mid-range. Now, the high frequencies of the B3 are really beautiful, and maybe my favorite part of the B3 actually. They have a little bit of emphasis in the lower treble around what sounded to me like 7K, and as a result kind of gives you a little bit of extra articulation and just kind of overall detail to the high frequencies. And the thing that was really cool about it is that there's harmonic complexity, there's detail, and there's a bit of extension too. But at the same time, there's still kind of this feeling of niceness and smoothness and aesthetically pleasingness that just kind of makes it a really pretty high end. And just like the rest of the frequency response, the high frequency response came through with kind of a feeling of realism. Now, there is a little bit of character there just in terms of the kind of extension that it has, and that feeling of easiness and smoothness that I described. However, it still has detail, and it still has kind of a forwardness and level that just makes it a really beautiful high end. Finally, as for the soundstage of the B3, while no one dimension really feels super expansive, all of the dimensions really have a great sense of differentiation and nuance in them. For example, in the sense of the vertical domain, the nice extended high end of these IEMs really helps to create a great sense of definition in regard to where the different instruments are sitting. However, it doesn't feel super, super tall or long because of the low frequencies are a little bit modest in their kind of representation. Likewise, the feeling of width probably feels the most extensive out of the three dimensions, but it doesn't feel like it's shooting out from the head. But because of how specific it is and how kind of close it feels to each individual instrument having its own space, it kind of gives that illusion of having a more spacious feeling of width. Finally, in terms of the sense of depth, the depth was the most interesting part of these IEMs in the soundstage, because there's really definitely this feeling of intimacy. You've got the high-mid boost kind of giving it that intimacy. However, in regard to how far back things feel, part of it is really nicely affected by the feeling that the mid-range is nice and full, so you can hear reverbs, room mics, all of that kind of stuff really clearly. But in regard to how the instruments feel splayed in that feeling of depth, they definitely kind of lean forward and have a feeling of smoothness and homogeneous kind of vibe to them. There's still differentiation, but it doesn't feel overly expansive or expressive in the feeling of depth. Overall, the Final Audio B3 has an even sound signature, a feeling of realism and accuracy to it, but also feels nice and thick and smooth. So it sounds really great for jazz, for classical music, and but even for rock music, it sounds really nice because it has that kind of fullness and harmonic complexity to it. Thank you so much for watching. For another perspective on the Final Audio B3, be sure to check out the description box down below. I've left a link to my colleague's review there. But yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Alright, thanks. I'll see you next time. Bye.